politics. If you got any questions about politics, let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you don't know too much about it, so I like to make myself available to answers people questions. And you don't have to worry about getting roasted or judged or debated or nothing. That is not what I am here for. I am just here to answer your good faith questions about politics. There was a time when I didn't know anything about politics, and I was always really worried that I was going to sound silly or stupid every time I asked a question about it, and so I did not like the way that felt. I decided I would make myself available to others in order to answer their questions about politics in a way where they didn't have to worry about getting judged or roasted or debated. I'm not here to fight you. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care if you didn't vote. I don't care if you are further to the left than me or further to the right than me. I am just here to answer all of your good faith questions about politics. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you're first trying to start to learn about it. There's a lot of weird 3-letter agencies that people just refer to by the abbreviations, and sometimes you just refer to important people in the government by their last names or by their titles, and so it can sometimes feel like learning a new language, and I don't never want anybody to feel like they should be too embarrassed to ask something, or like they want to learn something but they're embarrassed at getting started. It happens to the best of us, and so you can come here, you can ask a question, and there'll be no judgments, there'll be no roasting, there's no debating whatsoever. I'm not here to get into fights with people who I disagree with. I'm not here to tell you that the way that you voted was wrong, or that you're stupid, or that you're ugly, or that you're a cuck, or anything like that. I am just here to answer all of your good faith questions about politics. So if you got any questions about politics, just let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know politics can be really weird and confusing, especially now with what's going on with the government. Sometimes people might not know, why are so many people freaking out about the things that Trump and Musk are doing? Let's see here. Samurai Destroyer, good to see you again over on Twitch. What the fuck now, people? Says, how can we get rid of Trump? So there's really only a couple of mechanisms by which you can get rid of a sitting president. The one that we have the most control over is impeachment. We are less than 2 years away from being able to impeach and remove Trump from office, but what you have to do is vote for Democrats in various House races and Senate races. The more Democrats that we are able to elect all across the country, the greater the chance that we will be able to impeach and potentially even remove Trump from office. In order to impeach him, we would just need a majority in the House, which is pretty doable. Many people are saying that it is likely that Democrats will take back the House. Now, as far as actually removing Trump from office after he is impeached for the third time, we would need 67 Democratic senators, and that's an extremely difficult ask. But there are certain people, certain talking heads who will tell you that that's impossible. It's not impossible. It would just take a lot of work. When people say that things like that are impossible, what they are actually saying is, we don't think that people will do the amount of work necessary to get that done. And the way that you get that done is you go to the places that currently have Republican senators who are up for re-election, and you convince everybody who is voting in that state to vote for the Democrat instead. Or if you got a bunch of people who are non-voters, convince them to vote to get registered if they're not registered, and to get up off the couch if they are registered, and to get them to vote for Democrats instead of Republicans. Mike says, what's your stance on the reciprocal tariffs? Everybody who knows about this, I'm not an economist, but I pay attention to economists, and they are all saying that this is stupid. Republicans are saying this is stupid. Democrats are saying this is stupid. Economists are saying this is stupid. People in Congress are saying this is stupid. There is a smart way to do tariffs, but it is not this. And, there is some anecdotal reporting that they may have even used ChatGPT to figure all this shit out, which is, obviously not the way that it is supposed to go. All right, let's see here. Rocky 10 says, are we starting recession or no? I mean, a lot of financial indicators are saying that we're going to go into a recession. Financial, institutions like Goldman Sachs and what's the other ones? JP Morgan and shit like that, they're all saying that we have like a 60% chance of entering a recession. I think it's probably a good chance, but you don't know if Trump is going to reverse these tariffs next week. And he could do that. He's extremely fickle. And, he's got the attention of a goldfish. Poma says, do you think they will obey and bring back the guy from El Salvador? I don't understand what would be the value of stomping your feet and insisting that you just leave an innocent person in an El Salvadorian concentration camp. They admitted that they made a mistake, which should be like, that's game over, right? So you admitted your mistake. All right, now do all the work necessary to bring him back. But, sometimes people in the Trump administration like to see what they can get away with and see how lazy they can be without getting into trouble. Let's see here. Samurai Destroyer says, I would give some credit to Trump for making my country, Canada, become more united and nationalistic. Now Canada is considering expanding its military and being less reliant on the U.S. Samurai Destroyer, I can't argue any point whatsoever that what Trump is doing in relation to pissing off all of our allies is a good thing. Like you're saying, reducing its reliance on the U.S., like that's probably good for Canada, expanding its military. I don't love anybody expanding their military, including America. So, it is, I will say that it seems like your Liberal Party is doing better than your Conservative Party now because Pierre needs to distance himself from Trump and shit like that. And I think that's good. Like, we should all every government should be more progressive as opposed to being, more authoritarian and right-wing and shit like that. What the fuck now, people says, do you think Republican leaders are going along with Trump because they are afraid of their own base? I think it's a mix. I think that there are people who are afraid of violence from the right. I think there are people who are afraid of a primary challenge. But I also think there are a lot of elected Republicans who are just completely down with what Trump is doing, and they don't give a shit. They are on board with the fascist authoritarian playbook. They're like, yes, daddy, please, let's do this. I couldn't tell you which senators or which House members are which. Part of the Trump project has been removing Republicans from the party who are not full MAGA. And that goal has been, of varying degrees of efficacy, but there are fewer non-MAGA Republicans in elected office right now than there used to be. Than there are regular ass Republicans in Congress. So yeah, it is a combination. Man23 says, what do you think about a third Trump term? Obviously unconstitutional. Trump should not have served a second term or a first term, so a third term would be more terribleness of the same. Voodoo Child says, so picketing Mar-a-Lago, do you think this hands-off rally will work? So everything that you do has some amount of efficacy, just whether it's not going to, remove Trump from office tomorrow. I think that part of the issue that we have with people doing political activism is expecting to see the results. What we are doing is collective action, meaning everybody's doing a little bit of work together, and so we're not going to see or necessarily feel the effect of our protest or the effect of our letter writing campaign or the effect of calling our representatives. But it definitely has an effect in the aggregate. Like when you add all of our efforts together, it has an effect. And it might not be, the best outcome that you were looking for. It could just be harm reduction. It could just be that things are not going to be as bad as they could have been had we not all participated in great collective actions like, putting political pressure on our elected representatives and, and going to protests and shit like that. Stephen Jackson says, you're a Democrat, right? Yes, that is correct. I am a Democrat. Alice says, some more power. They have lost Republican Party. Not really sure what you mean by that, Alice. Christy Jonas Kazakevi says, good to see you again. Hey, your thoughts on protest against Trump and Masoud? I'm for him. I'm for all kinds of political action. I don't really care about, if it's a protest of 5 people or 5 million people, just so long as people are doing stuff. And I know that when you are a part of something that doesn't have great numbers behind it, it can be really discouraging. But I still say go for it, man. I like to encourage people to be active politically. Tyro, we do get an extra stream this week. My wife is out of town and my lunch plans got canceled. So here we are. Floyd just posted Trump 2028. That is an example of a comment that will get you blocked. I don't care if you have different opinions than me, everybody, but just actually ask a question and be part of the conversation. Let's see here. Okay, I mean, as right-leaning independent person, I do agree with Mark Carney about increased military salary to have more troops. Like, I'm not a liberal or a progressive. Samurai Destroyer, I don't mind that you are, someone on the right in Canada. I would hope that, you are not planning on voting for Poilievre. I hope that you can understand why he would be a worse politician than, I think Carney is your liberal candidate, I believe. But, don't feel free to correct me about Canadian politics. It is not my strong suit. Stephen Michael says, any countries drop tariffs against America yet? Not as far as I have heard. Hoodlem says, Obama, Pelosi, Biden, Schumer, all on record for being for removal of waste, fraud, abuse, etc. Okay, but they're not in favor of what Doge is doing, Hoodlum. There's a difference between getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse and what Doge is doing. Doge is not getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. Number one, they're lying to everybody. All the things that they're putting out as far as like what they found are either wrong or grossly misleading, or the numbers are inflated. What they are doing is shutting down agencies that are investigating Elon Musk companies like USAID and the Consumer Financial Protection Board. And they're shutting down programs that help the 99%. And by helping the 99%, they hurt the 1%. What the 1% wants is for all of us to be desperate and hurting. And so the billionaire class, like Elon Musk and like Donald Trump, they want to shut down programs like Medicare and Medicaid because that helps the 99% not be desperate and have good lives. Additionally, they're trying to cut taxes for the billionaire class again because these guys don't have enough caviar and fucking golden yachts. They need some more. It's like, oh, they all already have their own fucking space programs. What else do they fucking need? Do they need a nuclear arsenal? Like, why do these guys need their taxes cut even fucking more? But if they're going to make some holes in the budget for that kind of thing, maybe we can take food out of the mouths of hungry children. Maybe we can cut funding for pediatric cancer research. Then we can give some more money to our billionaire buddies. That seems like a pretty good deal, right? So yeah, Hoodlum, that is what Doge is doing. If you would like, fear-mongering Democrats, no proof. That's an example of a comment that gets you blocked. It's not a question. You are not being part of the conversation. Again, I don't care if you have different opinions than me, but actually ask a question. Marcus Aponte says, where in the Constitution does it mention Medicare, education, transportation, healthcare? Not everything in the Constitution is not supposed to be like an all-encompassing docket. A document. It doesn't have things like cell phones in there because they weren't invented yet. It is a framework for things going forward. So just because something isn't specifically mentioned in the Constitution does not mean that we're not allowed to have it and shit like that. Let's see here. Trump is stealing the money. Let's see here. Trump, greatest president ever. John Pizza Man, I hope you're being sarcastic. And again, guys, if you are somebody who disagrees with me and you don't ask a question, you're going to get blocked because I cannot just have people on here spamming the comments with pro-Trump spam. If you're a Trump person, ask a question. Like, I don't care. Let's see here. Marcus Aponte says, it's a limiting document. Exactly. There needs to be an amendment process. So until that happens, it's a state issue. Marcus, I find that most people who argue about what's a state issue versus what is a national issue, they tend to be, they tend to be people on the right who are looking for excuses to break apart the government and, excuse authoritarian behavior. So you can miss me with that. There's good policy and there's bad policy. And just to argue for blanket states' rights is, it's myopic, it's short-sighted, it's a bad argument, Joshua Lloyd says, Trump is doing a great job. That is a block. All right, John Pizza Man, you were warned. And now you are getting blocked as well. I told you. Just ask a question and you can stay, guys. Jones 586 says, where's your proof that Doge is lying? Back up your statements with data and facts. Okay, Jones. So yeah, that thing about transgender mice, that wasn't transgender mice. It was research for Alzheimer. There was a thing about sending condoms to Hamas. That was wildly debunked. Just give it a Google, man. Like, I have the same Google as you do. Let's see here. Marcus Aponte said it's not blanket statement. States' rights is limiting factor to reach the federal government. Transgenic, thank you very much. Inverted Mystic, good to see you again. The Constitution is to protect you from the government like the Bill of Rights. It's not a law basically telling you your rights. You should read it. Completely agree with that. State rights are good because, like, how else are you going to defend against a tyrannical president like Trump? Yeah, I am not against states' rights. I just think that there's a habit on the right of kicking things to the states in order to punt what is good federal policy. Bruce Walker says, Trump said on Truth Social he put the tariffs in place to tank the stock market. Why did he do it? There's a bunch of theories as to that, and I think that you can dig yourself into a hole by trying to figure out exactly what Trump's motivations are, because, again, he has the mind of a goldfish. He's a child. He doesn't really think, too far ahead. So he could say one thing about his motivations on day one, and then tomorrow say something completely different, and then contradict the thing that he did by undoing the thing that he did, and then coming up with a dumb bullshit reason for that thing. So you really can't rate anything that he fucking says or read truths for that matter. But one theory about why he might be tanking the stock market on purpose is because him and his billionaire buddies would like to buy up assets like stocks and ETFs and shit like that at a greatly decreased cost. And so once they buy up all the stocks and shit like that, then they can start the economy back up again, and then all of their investments will go through the roof. That's one theory. There's also the theory that because Trump is a Russian asset, he is just enjoying destroying America. And here's a theory that I haven't heard, but that I kind of circled around myself today. This is a Jared Berenstein original. The same way that Clarence Thomas, after the hearings with Anita Hill, when she was telling everybody that he sexually harassed her and that he should not be confirmed because of that, and then he got pissed and he decided he was going to make America suffer by being the world's worst Supreme Court justice. And him and Samuel Alito are really battling out for that title. It's always a close match between those two. I think Trump is the same. He got impeached twice. His attempted coup failed. He was, kicked out of office. The FBI stole back all of the documents that he considered his, but were actually belonged to the federal government. And he's mad, and he wants to make us all suffer. He wants to make every American suffer. There are more people who did not vote for him than people who voted for him, so he feels like if he makes all of America suffer, then he's, blanket, he's probably getting revenge mostly on the people who don't like him as opposed to the people that do like him. And if some of his fans get some retaliatory, some, some friendly fire there, some collateral damage, he doesn't give a fuck, The only person that he cares about is the dude that he sees every day in the fucking mirror, you know what I mean? Let's see here. David says, when Trump destroys the old system, how long will it take to bring up the new system? I don't really know that. It's like you're talking about like a binary when these things are like slow moving organisms, it's more like a status bar. Like it'll be, 10% destroyed old system, 5% new system. And then, things are kind of destroyed and rebuilt and shit like that. But what Trump is doing is not like, dismantling a broken system and building a better system. What he's doing is dismantling the government so that the government will just be an extension of private industry, and it will just be another way that the billionaire class is able to exert their will on the lot of us. Like right now there are students being illegally deported and sent to a concentration camp in El Salvador for tweeting things that Donald Trump disagrees with or writing an op-ed that is, critical of the government of Israel. But, it could just as easily be, what's a fucking piece of shit corporation like Facebook, does not like that you posted something that they don't like. So now ICE is going to come and throw you in jail as well, shit like that. Let's see here. Dear Dakota says, my thing is, what has he actually done to prove that he does care about us as a people? Words are cheap. I have seen exactly zero that he has done to suggest that he gives a shit about any human being but himself. Let's see here. Coco and Beasley says, why does impeachment not have any consequences? So the consequence of impeachment is, number one, it is permanently in the history books that you were impeached. But the other effect of impeachment is that it allows the Senate to vote on removing you from office. Now, because Republicans are spineless and morally bankrupt, they have had two opportunities to join with the Democrats to vote in the Senate to remove Trump from office, and they have rejected both of those opportunities. That is one reason of 100,000 that I think no human should ever vote for a Republican politician ever again, especially anyone that was in the Senate or in the House during both impeachment hearings and did not vote to convict or did not vote to remove from office. Again, I don't understand why this isn't fully disqualifying for these people. Sabrina says, is there any positives in what Trump is doing? Not that I can see, Sabrina. And I have a philosophy of not giving Republicans any credit that they did not deserve, because they tend to get a lot more credit than they deserve. Democrats never get any credit for the good things that they do, and Republicans never get appropriate blame for the bad things that they do. Case in point, Trump organized a coup before he left office in his first term, and now he is back in office, which doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. So yeah, I'm not going to sift through the giant pile of shit that is everything Trump has ever done in office, looking for the either good knock-on effects or the silver lining. Lisa Salas says, what's up, Jarrett? I think that's what the W means. Marcia says, I have been posting negatively about the current government. Should I be worried? Marcia, I think that... I don't know. I don't have any faith in this government's respect for our First Amendment rights. So I'm scared that I keep on coming on here and telling the truth about the Trump administration, which would definitely put a target on my back. I've got 145,000 followers on TikTok, but maybe that is me being enough below the radar to not, have ICE kicking down my door to, throw me out of the fucking country. But if we're talking about, there's no stop on Trump in the midterms, for example, or... there's a full military coup. Trump has replaced all of the heads of the military with Trump sycophants, and he has deployed the military to every major U.S. city, and, he has disbanded Congress and shit like that. At that point, yeah, delete all of your social media, and, then we got to start working on being the resistance, the underground resistance that... only uses signal chat and fucking carrier pigeons and shit like that. And we got to start, operating underground like the French resistance during World War II and shit like that. But right now, if you're not if Rachel Maddow's not in jail, then I think you and I are probably safe. There's another theory about that, though, which is maybe they're starting small. Maybe they go after the people who only have a little bit of followers. And then, those are the people that there's not going to be any kickback. There's not going to be any, what's the word I'm looking for? There's not going to be any, mass outrage because not a lot of people know who that is, So let's say you take a really popular, progressive like Destiny or Hassan or some shit like that, and you throw them in jail. They've got hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of fans that would be up in arms and calling their representatives. But if they just start throwing random individuals into jail for saying negative things about Trump, then maybe the backlash isn't as strong. These are all theories, I'm just kind of spitballing here. I don't really have any evidence for you. But yeah, if I'm still on here with my whole ass face, telling the truth about Trump, then I think you're probably okay. Let's see here. User a whole bunch of numbers says, wow, a big accomplishment in your life, cutting all your TikTok followers. User a whole bunch of numbers. What a funny thing to say. Because what do you think? You think I'm counting my TikTok followers? You think TikTok doesn't just have that number on my profile for anybody to see? Do you think that's what I did all weekend, was just go through 1, 2, 3, 4? But I know exactly what you're doing here, or shall I say, I know exactly why you're not here anymore. All right, let's see what we got here. Tyro says, if they throw you out, I will come get you. That's really funny and sweet, Tyro. I appreciate that. But I've actually talked to my wife about this. My wife is... an extremely smart and capable and powerful woman. And so I asked her once, I was like, if the government disappears me, would you do a fucking Liam Neeson in Taken to come get me? She was like, without question, it is my dream to fucking do that, to go get my fucking baby out of an ICE detention center, She would rip that place down with her bare fucking hands. If anything did happen to me, I would just say fucking to whatever ICE agents were holding me, good fucking luck, pal, because there is a steam train headed straight for you, my man. Let's see here. Sweet Caroline, I'm going to go visit my MAGA parents right now. Wish me luck. Good luck, Sweet Caroline. Try to push the needle if you can. You know, you don't got to turn them into AOC liberals, but let's see, if you can, move the needle a little bit in the right direction. Lisa says that's why she married you. Yeah, she cannot wait to get a fucking opportunity to go full Jennifer Garner in Alias. Didn't she also do a movie called like Mango or The Drumline or some shit where she was getting revenge for her husband or something? IDEX says Trump or Kamala. Why would you ask me that when the election is over? Dad Badaz says, do you think MAGA goes away when Trump does? Yeah, I think depending on how bad and authoritarian America gets, the presidency, like in the worst case scenario, the presidency just gets handed down to his kids the way that, feudal lords would hand down the kingship to their prince children. So yeah, we could get like a watered down version of MAGA for, Don Jr. or Ivanka's presidency. But yeah, I don't imagine that is going to happen. Like his kids don't really seem all that interested in politics. They don't have the same juice that he has. They don't have the same. They're not as entertaining to watch. They're kind of shitty kids. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I really don't see anybody being able to carry the mantle the way that he did. Dale Heinhart Jr. says, remember when that guy went to prison over a comedic meme? That sounds vaguely familiar, but I'm not really sure what you're referring to. Hassan says, thoughts on the NYC mayoral race? Listen, I don't give a shit who wins so long as a fucking better Democrat wins the primary. Like, everybody should go out. I don't know who's running against Mayor Adams, but fucking elect somebody else besides Mayor Adams, man. If I was still in New York, I would be out there fucking every weekend making sure that Eric Adams did not win re-election. The dude is a corrupt piece of shit who is working with the Trump administration and ICE. It is completely antithetical to the values of New York City. It's fucking New York City, man. It's the greatest city in the world. It is a progressive bastion in the fucking globe, man. Like, what are we gonna have? We're gonna have fucking a former cop who is working on deporting legal immigrants from New York City, working with the fucking biggest piece of shit on the planet, Eric. Like, what are you doing, Eric Adams? Like, fucking leave, man. He wants to stay mayor so he can stay out of jail the same way that Trump wants to stay president so he can stay out of jail, Hassan says Andrew Cuomo is bad for NYC too. Yeah, I don't love Andrew Cuomo or else. Isn't there a good progressive? Is Maya Wiley running again? Is fucking Cynthia Nixon running for mayor? Fucking get your shit together, New York. Come on, man. Let's get some good candidates. Marcia says, didn't go out to protest today, but also didn't spend a dime either, protesting in my way. Good for you, Marcia. I appreciate that. You sir need more coffee. We're going crazy when Biden, look at his watch, but Trump skipped on 4 soldiers killed in Lithuania. Yeah, the economy is crashing and he's playing golf, spending, millions of our tax dollars at his golf resort. So that's great. There's your waste, fraud, and abuse, Doge. User a bunch of numbers says, do you think we're heading to a second Trump recession? 2 in 5 years is crazy. Everybody who studies this shit says that we are headed for a recession. Baby Kurama says, what do you think about the prices of food? They're going up. Dan Blackwood says, we're better than Eric Adams. We are better than Eric Adams. Forever His Daughter says, my question is being censored. I don't censor questions, but maybe there is... My question is being censored. Yeah, I don't see your question. Maybe there's like certain words that are getting censored in the app. The app does that normally. I'm not really sure. Gemma Starfighter says, you realize the Dems will not be able to elect a president for at least 12 years, abject failure. I don't know why you think that, Gemma Starfighter. That is, you're saying that with a lot of confidence, but that is not a thing that you could possibly know. I strongly disagree with that, Gemma Starfighter. The power to elect presidents has absolutely nothing to do with the Democratic Party. It has to do with all of us. Josh Boyanton says, we had a surplus in 1890 because of tariffs. We're trying to get that back. The world relies on us. Well, after 1890, tariffs also called this thing called the Great Depression, Josh Boyanton. But yeah, keep on, selectively learning history in order to advance your own agenda, my man. Zoran Mamdani, progressive NYC mayoral candidate. He's awesome. Look into him if you got time. Yeah, if anybody here is watching from New York, vote for Mamdani. Vote for Mamdani in the primary, everybody. That is the most important thing that you can do, New Yorkers, is make sure that you vote for Mamdani in the New York mayoral primary. Hopefully, we got Cuomo and Adams will be splitting the centrist Democrat vote, and Mamdani can then fucking run away with the progressive vote. So yeah, everybody get out there and do that fucking work, my man. Joey says, Trump talked the talk, but he's the reason the economy is failing. Joey, he talked the talk, but he was lying when he was talking the talk, So I don't understand why people ever fucking believe this dude. The second he opened his mouth, I was like, that guy's a con man. He's like a shitty stereotype of a used car salesman. He sounds like a kid giving a book report about a book he did not read. Like, how can you not see that, America? Let's see here. Forever His Daughter says, I want to know if in 4 years the privatization, can the government take them back? Forever His Daughter, I'm not 100% sure what you are asking here. Because, I know, in 4 years, the privatization, in 4 years of privatization, is that what you're saying? Yeah, I'm not really sure. Josh Boyanton says, dude, you're quick-witted as fuck. Didn't mean any respect. My bad. Oh, no, Josh, you're good, man. If you're asking questions in good faith, I don't care if you disagree with me. I don't even remember what your question was, my man. Let's see here. Ali Down B says, explain Trump's new tariffs, please. Let's see here. User on bunch of numbers says, please make me understand why trade shouldn't be fair. User a bunch of numbers. I kind of know what you're doing. I know you're trying to make it seem like any trade deficits that we have with other countries is like a slap in the face or is completely unfair, and that these tariffs are quote unquote making it fair. But number one, it's not unfair to have a trade deficit. Sometimes you buy something, I have a trade deficit with the grocery store, they aren't buying shit from me ever. But that is I'm happy to have that trade deficit with the grocery store because I don't have anything that the grocery store needs. But the grocery store has a lot of food that I need. Sometimes when you pay money for something, you can just be happy that you have that thing instead of being angry that you didn't then also sell something back to the grocery store at equal or lesser value, All right, Ali wants to know about Trump's new tariffs. Okay, so basically, tariffs are a way that we can try to exercise some control over global markets. If you have a country that is flooding the market with a specific resource and is making it is decreasing its value, and you need to rebalance that so that you can continue to sell that resource at the value that it costs, then you can inflict tariffs on that one specific product in then one specific country. It is best used as a scalpel as opposed to a sledgehammer. What the Trump administration is doing doesn't even have the delicacy and subtlety of a sledgehammer. He is doing this like a fucking nuclear weapon. His tariffs are wildly enormous and fucking random as hell. Some people have suggested that he used ChatGPT to create this tariff schedule, which is completely fucking insane. Every economist is looking at it and is like, you put tariffs on every country in the world except for Russia, weirdly. It doesn't make any sense. It's not targeted to specific industries. It is literally just going to destroy the American economy. It is going to potentially spur an American recession, a global recession. Every other country is going to continue to trade amongst themselves, so their economies are going to be able to grow. They're going to have access to better resources, better minds. All of our scientists are now leaving the country as well. So yeah, the technological revolution is not going to be in America anymore. We're going to be shit out of luck, both intellectually and resource-wise. So yeah, I think that answers your question about the tariffs. If you want me to get into something more specific, let me know. Let's see here. User a bunch of numbers says, everyone is so focused on the market will go back up. DCA time. User a bunch of numbers, that's going to be of little recourse to people who were expecting to retire this year and now are seeing that they have, 10% less funds available to them to retire. Some people, they cash out of the market, eventually, so they can then live off of that money. That's number one. Number two is I find it very sus when anybody is not looking at the market as some kind of indicator, because we always do that for Democratic presidents. If there's one bad day in the stock market, everybody goes, wow, that's Democrats for you. They're shitty on the economy. Meanwhile, Republicans have been fucking setting our economy on fire for the last 40 years, and we still consider them the party of fiscal responsibility for some stupid fucking reason. And I know the reason is propaganda and misinformation, by the way. Let's see here. I love that you guys are having a chat over there on Twitch, everybody. Do not let me interrupt you. Let's see here. Obama presidency scared them so badly, they have yet recovered, hence the hate for minorities. Completely agree with that. Harvey says, how do you feel about Senator Schumer's vote to keep the government from shutting down? That's an excellent question, Harvey. Thank you for bringing it up. This kind of falls into a larger, monologue that I have about how Democrats never get any credit and Republicans never get any blame, and how the information environment is weaponized against the Democratic Party, both in the mainstream media and in social media, and obviously in right-wing media. So, people are viewing what Chuck Schumer and 9 other Democratic senators as having done as folding or caving to the wills of the Trump administration, because they did not force a filibuster on the continuing resolution, meaning the bill that they wanted to pass to continue funding the government. I'm sure you know some of this, Harvey, but I'm just doing the long version for anybody else who might be watching. They didn't vote for the bill, but they did not filibuster it, which people are saying was, the Democrats caving. But here's the thing. I think that was a really difficult decision. And I think that it is indicative of the fact that it was a really difficult decision that the 10 Democratic senators who allowed the vote to take place, who did not, who voted in favor of breaking the filibuster, they came from, every avenue of the Democratic Party. You had really great progressives like Senator Schatz, but you also had, more centrist, conservative Democrats like Chuck Schumer. It was a difficult decision. We were shit out of luck either way. And what they valued more was in keeping the government open, as opposed to any sort of leverage that they might be able to get by allowing the government to close. They surmised correctly, in my opinion, that, if they were to force the government to close, then that would, just accelerate all the things that DOJ is doing right now, as far as like closing government agencies and firing government workers and shit like that. It is just the purview of the presidency, who is essential personnel during a shutdown. So they would just have their fucking druthers. They'd be like kids in the candy store. You know what I mean? Now, there is a very persuasive argument for why they still should have forced the government shutdown. And to be perfectly honest, I kind of fall on that side of the argument as well. Like, I do think if we had stayed unified and forced the filibuster and forced the government shutdown, that probably would have been better in the long run, especially for the optics for the Democratic Party. But it was a difficult decision. It was a really difficult call. And so the people that interpret that as Chuck Schumer caving or the Democratic Party caving, I don't buy that argument one bit. And I view that as evidence that no matter what Democrats do, people are always going to be angry with them. I call them Schrodinger's political party, because they are simultaneously too far to the left and too far to the right, and doing too much and doing too little. The fact that that's the narrative now, like, that's just, everybody thinks that now. If you talk to any human being on the street, 9 out of 10 of them will say, oh, what happened during the CR fight was that the Democrats caved. They bent the knee, they gave up, they're not doing anything, they're not fighting. And I think that is wildly inaccurate. And again, evidence of how the information sphere is weaponized against the Democratic Party. Jesse from the block says, are you aware of Technocracy Incorporated? Is that the thing where all these tech billionaires are trying to form like their own little feudal system where they are the kings and lords of specific little cities that only they run? Is that what you're referring to? Forever's daughter says, do you think that the oligarchs that take over the government can government over after them for years? Forever's daughter, I think what you're saying is, can we like fix the government after the Trump administration? Is that what you're saying? I'm not really sure where the communication issue is happening here, but Do you think that the oligarchs that take over the government, can government over after them for years? Yeah, all these things are fixable, but it's just a matter of time. Like the Trump administration in defunding all of this medical research that is going on, they are destroying like 30 years of work that we're not going to be able to just like turn that light switch back on again. Our reputation on the world stage, our relationship with our allied nations, that stuff is not going to come back in 4 years. But, if a man built it, then a man can fix it, and if a man destroyed it, then a woman can fix it, progressive, everybody. Let's see here. Johnny Bot says, do you think Elon asked Trump to jerk it? That was the last straw. No, I don't think so. I think it has much more to do with the fact that he's so wildly unpopular. Trump views him as tanking his own administration. Miss Dini says, do you see what's happening now, continuing for the duration of his term? I'm not really sure. I'm not going to try to make any predictions about the rest of his term, but I will say this. There are two directions that we can go. We can go the direction where people are activated and organizing and doing work to try to stop the Trump administration, and that is putting pressure on their right-leaning elected officials. If you have a Republican senator or a Republican House member, putting pressure on them, getting people to go out and vote in the midterms for Democrats instead. That's finding new voters. There are 85 million people who could have voted in 2024 and did not. It's convincing people who either don't vote or maybe were soft Republican voters to vote for Democrats instead. And if we take back the House, if we get a majority in the Senate, if we get a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate, if we get if we get 67 seats in the Senate, so we could actually remove Trump from office, like that is just how much work we are willing to put into it. But if we don't do the work, if we the citizens do not do the work, then I don't know how things go. And I think that the more hands off we are, the more we just sit around and wait for someone to come save us, the more we slide into authoritarianism, dictator fascism shit. America starts looking like Russia. America starts looking like 1930s Germany, et cetera, et cetera. Let's see here. Jen X. Lowry says, Chris Hedges says Democratic Party are corporatists and Republicans are autocratic oligarchs. Jen X. Lowry, I disagree with that. I regularly push back against what I fear are somewhat inaccurate and completely unfair criticisms of the Democratic Party. Like, they get called, like, the corporatists. And it's like, really? This Democratic Party with AOC in it and fucking Bernie Sanders and Brian Schatz and Chris Murphy and Jasmine Crockett and Maxwell Frost, maybe there aren't as many of the progressive wing in the Democratic Party as you would like them to be. But the fact of the matter is, like, the Democratic Party has the politicians who are rejecting the billionaire class. The Democratic Party has the politicians who do not have super PACs. The Democratic Party has the politicians that are walking the picket lines with the unions and protecting unions and workers' rights and shit like that. So to paint the entire Democratic Party as the neoliberal corporate-friendly version of Democrats that we had in the 90s, because again, that's the only shit that America was fucking voting for. We were getting our asses kicked by fucking Reagan and trickle-down economics for 12 years fucking before that. So yeah, you'll forgive me if I don't fucking give Bill Clinton shit for being a little corporate-friendly, as that seems to be the only fucking way America was going to elect a Democrat ever again, you know what I mean? Now, the atmosphere has changed, and so yeah, we are more open and accepting and encouraging of more progressive worker-led Democrats. But that's what America was selling back then. You know what I mean? Marcia says, do you think that senators should take turns protesting like Cory Booker? I don't have a problem with that at fucking all, man. I think that sounds great. Let's see here. Jen X. Laurie says, thanks for answering. I reject that notion as well. It bothered me to hear that. Yeah, I think that criticism of the Democratic Party is a little overblown. And as much as I like Bernie Sanders, him going out there and saying that the Democratic Party has abandoned the working class, I think is a little, a little overstated, shall we say. Right, let's see here. Dan Blackwood says, what becomes of Elon after exiting the administration? I mean, he's going to continue to be a political actor, regardless of if he's officially in Doge or this administration or not. So I see him, trying to pull the strings in other countries the way that he tried to, he's going to try to influence other elections. He's going to try to influence elections in France and Germany and Russia and shit like that, and try to install loyalists. He's going to be deeply involved in the primary process and the midterms. Just because he's not officially in Doge doesn't mean he's not going to have his fingers in the government going forward. So yeah, I don't know if him leaving will have any sort of substantive difference besides just the optics of it for the Republican Party. Infected Wi-Fi says, I think the Democratic has moved too far right. Infected Wi-Fi, I would say a lot more people think they've moved too far to the left. I would encourage you to think about the Democratic Party as a big tent rainbow coalition where we have progressives and we have centrists. We have people that are there because of LGBTQIA issues. We have people that are there for working class issues. We have people that are there for women's issues, for minority issues. And all of these people need to be working together to fight authoritarianism and the billionaire class. And so by saying things like it's too far to the right and we're going to put a target on, like the Nancy Pelosi's and the Chuck Schumer's I think that's defeatist. And I think that is doing the work of the billionaire class in the Republican Party. Why don't we, appreciate and celebrate the fact that the Democratic Party represents America, represents the diversity of America, both in the type of person you are, whether white, black, or gay, or straight, or whatever, but also what your political philosophy is. Like, maybe you're more of a centrist, maybe you believe in a woman's right to choose, but you don't think that we should be canceling student debt, maybe you believe in, like having a police department. You don't believe in defunding the police, but you recognize that ICE is a rogue agency and you want to take them down. Like all these people belong in the Democratic Party. I am not for any of these purity tests, whether you are too far to the left or too far to the right for being in the Democratic Party. I did not care for Joe Manchin, but the fact of the matter is, like, the Democrats lost a seat because of that shit. And now we have one fewer vote in the Senate. Kristen Sinema, we replaced her with Ruben Gallega. That's great. Fucking in with the shitty, out with the better. But West Virginia, maybe we could have played ball with Joe Manchin a little bit, guys. Let's see here. Kinetic Purge says the billionaire class, almost every billionaire is Democrat, but that is factually inaccurate, Kinetic Purge. And I don't know if you are here to spread misinformation or if you are a victim of misinformation. But 75% of all billionaire donations went to Republican Party candidates in the 2024 election. And the Republican Party platform is the billionaires' wish list. Like, they want their taxes cut and our taxes raised. They want taxes on their massively profitable corporations to be cut and regulations for their massively profitable corporations to be cut so they can poison us but make more money in the process. Like, these people are fucking sick, man. They don't care. If you told me I could have $1 billion, but somebody who I don't know, their kid is going to get cancer, I would be like, no, thank you. But there are literally billionaires that are living in this country right now, enjoying their fucking lobster and caviar and going to the fucking movies like regular ass people, and they are cashing out your children's lives for money. And it's disgusting. And the Republican Party is down with that. That is what the party of anti-regulation means. They'll want to tell you that they're getting rid of cumbersome red tape, but that is not the fucking case. They're fucking lying about it. And while they're painting the Democratic Party as being like, we love regulations even if they're terrible, that is inaccurate. The Democratic Party likes good regulations. And if you show us a regulation that's not working, we'll fucking get rid of it, man. So long as you give us the fucking votes to actually get rid of it. Let's see here. Kinetic, have you responded? Kinetic, are you still here? Alrighty, let's see here. Miss Dinny says, do you have a podcast? Nah, I kind of view this as my podcast. If you go to my website, you'll see a link to some old podcasts that I have. And so, yeah, you can go check that stuff out. I have a podcast that I don't advertise called Sporadic, where I just every once in a while pop in and give like life updates. I'm due for another episode of that. And I also have a podcast that used to be me and my stand-up buddies working on jokes together. And that podcast I fucking loved doing. But then everybody in that group got into a fight with each other. And so they decided to disband. I am the only person who is not responsible for that podcast dissolving. But yeah, go to my website if you're curious about that shit. Austin says, what percentage of wealth do you think the top 1% should control? Less. Awesome. Less. I don't have a number in mind, but it's less. If there's a person who is sleeping on the street, who can't afford food, who can't afford medical treatment, then the rich have too much money. That is the metric that I am using. Let's see here. Infected Wi-Fi says, how can the Democratic Party connect with voters who may have voted for Biden in 20 but Trump in 24? It's a really interesting question, Infected Wi-Fi, because there are a lot of people who do this professionally who have different conflicting opinions about who those voters are, why they did not vote for Harris, why they voted for Trump instead, or why they just sat home on the couch. And some people view this as like a messaging issue. Some people view this as, they need to appeal more to their base. They need to be, more welcoming and not be such a circling firing squad, shit like that. I am going to say something controversial but brave here, which is that I am not expecting the Democratic Party to do anything. My support of the Democratic Party has nothing to do with their ability to message and win elections, because I recognize that they are playing a game that has been rigged against them. They have fewer resources than the Republican Party has available to them because they are not, working hand in hand with a bunch of fucking richest people that have ever existed, including the leader of an adversarial nation, Vladimir Putin. Like, the Russians are working with the Republican Party to, win elections over here. And even if we gave all of our money to the Democratic Party, we wouldn't be able to match that. And also, they are at a severe disadvantage electorally with the gerrymandering and the Senate map and the Electoral College. There are people who are sitting around and waiting and being like, the Democrats need to be better at messaging. They need to be better at this. They need to be better at that. They need to be better at TikTok, man. They got to get out there and do TikTok shit. They got to have podcasts like Joe Rogan. They got to go on Joe Rogan and shit like that. And I'm like, I don't care, honestly. They're going to do what they're going to do. And I'm gonna support them as best I can because I know that electing them is better for the country. But that's not their job. It's my job. And it's all of our jobs. Because they are, again, playing a game that is rigged against them. So the only advantage that they have is us doing their work as well. They're going to message, they're going to raise money, they're going to campaign, they're going to door knock, they're going to do all the things that they're going to do. We should help them. So yeah, I don't really have a prescription for the Democratic Party. I have a prescription for us, for you and me. Let's see here. Harvey says, do you think that Trump will push back against Putin regarding the ceasefire? That is a really good question. I don't really have any faith that Trump is ever actually going to go against Vladimir Putin. It just seems like everything he is doing is for the benefit of Vladimir Putin. It's not for our benefit, Potentially it's for his individual benefit and the benefit of his billionaire buddies, but yeah, I mean, the way that he is weakening our relationship with our allies, I don't know, maybe that puts money in billionaires' pockets indirectly, but that is just kind of for Putin, So yeah, I think he's trying to put up a show for trying to negotiate, and whatever deal he, manages to get over the finish, if he ever manages to get through something over the finish line, he's going to say it's a great deal that he worked really hard on, and he was so great at negotiating, and it's just going to be a massive giveaway to Russia. And Ukraine's going to get practically nothing. The way that I think this is probably going to go is that they put forward a deal that is, again, everything for Russia, nothing for Ukraine. Zelensky is not going to agree to it, and then both Putin and Trump will say, well, I guess Zelensky doesn't want peace, and if he doesn't want peace, then we're not going to help him because we don't believe in these forever wars that warmongers like Zelensky are putting forward, blah, blah, blah. That's exactly what I think is going to happen. Yeah, I don't see him doing anything but performative pushback against Putin. Lisa Salas says the Democrats need to keep the message short and sweet. They need to recognize how uneducated voters are. That's one valuable thing that they could do, But again, I don't care. I don't care what they do. Because the Democrats get fucking raked over the coals no matter what they do, they have become very gun shy about their messaging, and they put everything through a million focus groups, and so everything they say comes out sounding really manufactured and inorganic. But what are they gonna fucking do? They go out there and they tell the truth, and they get fucking smacked. Al Gore went out there when he was running for president in 2000. Sorry, everybody, I'm old. But he ran for president in 2000, and he said that he deserved some kudos for securing the funding that created the internet, that he was partially responsible for the creation of the internet. This thing that had revitalized America's economy and was bringing us all these great technological informations and, all the technological innovations, and we were at the cutting edge of technology in the world thanks to people like him. And America heard that message and said, Al Gore just said he invented the internet. And I was like, no, he didn't. That's not what he said. But everybody ran with that. That was the joke on every late night TV show. And I'm sure they made a joke about it on The Simpsons and shit like that. That was the big gag, was that Al Gore said that he invented the internet. And then Democrats heard that and were like, man, I guess we got to be really careful about everything we fucking say here. And if they don't say anything wrong, then Republicans fucking lie about them. Like the Affordable Care Act made it illegal for insurers to discriminate against people who had pre-existing conditions. And the Republicans said there's death panels in there. There's death panels. They say that there's a group of people that's going to decide whether your grandfather gets to live. That's pretty fucked up, So then Democrats were like, man, it doesn't even matter if we don't say anything. We got to, oh man, this is rough, So yeah, they've been judged so much harder than the Republican Party that they've gotten very careful about the things that they say. It's like they're in an abusive relationship where they just know they're going to get yelled at no matter what they do. So they've just become like very anxious and robotic and shit like that. Let's see here. Alrighty. Lesby Ann says, Dems supporting Congress members to write regulations for the stock market and invest in it is a bad look. I completely agree with that, Lesby Ann, but let's be real, that the Republican Party is doing that more than the Democratic Party is doing. There are a lot of bills that have come from the Democratic Party to try to make it illegal for people in government to do insider trading. There was one that I think got like 24 Democrats to sign on to it, that exactly 0 Republicans signed on to. There are some that came out of Republicans, but they've gone absolutely fucking nowhere. But yeah, to the idea, this is more of that negative fucking propaganda messaging that I was talking about, where it's like, every Republican is insider trading also. But because Nancy Pelosi stupidly went out there and said, I don't think it's a problem that we have insider trading and we can trade stocks, now she and all of Democrats are the face of insider trading in government? Like really, man? Because on the average, if I'm throwing a dartboard at a bunch of politicians and I want to hit one that doesn't do insider trading or thinks that we should make it illegal for people in the government to do insider trading, I'm going to throw one at the Democrats because I'm definitely going to hit one more than if I throw one at the fucking Republicans, man. Let's see here. Dan Blackroyd says, I appreciate your candor. I think Al Gore has been unfairly maligned in general. Yeah, completely agree with that. Ethan Michael Parsons says, death panels. Yes, that was the right-wing smear campaign against the Affordable Care Act in 2009 when Obama was trying to pass some sort of healthcare reform. Ethan Michael Parsons. Let's see here. And because she's a woman on the left, let's just say it. What was that about? Who is the woman? And because she's a woman, Nancy Pelosi, yeah. Lesby Ann says we have to hold members accountable both sides. Yes, but Lesby Ann, let's be clear. You didn't say, Dems supporting Congress members to write regulations for the stock market. You said Dems, not Congress people. You specifically called out the Democratic Party. And I'm telling you, as somebody who I engage with people about this shit all the fucking time, this idea that is a thing that Democrats do exclusively, or that they're the ones who are propping that up, is pervasive. It's a fucking pandemic, man. So yeah, I think we need to do both. We need to preface everything that we say by reminding people that Republicans on every issue are worse at that. It's Nancy Pelosi went out there and said that insider trading was fine, But who else thinks it's fine is every fucking Republican. Let's see here. Lesbian says, well, we know Republicans are going to support that. You know, Lesbian, thank you for being here. I hope I'm not seeming like I'm coming down on you or anything, but I think that is the attitude that has made it so that Republicans get to skirt by this, like, shrugging our shoulders, like, yeah, well, we know they're evil, you know? But then if we don't talk about it, if we don't constantly remind people, like, how much worse they are, then the narratives get skewed. And we have things like the 2024 election, where people were tricked into voting for Trump, even though he was fucking lying about bringing down costs. And, you know, people were saying that he would be better for Gaza and the people of Palestine than Harris would have. You know, like, people are falling for it, Lesbian, and I'm not putting that on you. I'm just saying, like, anytime I hear that criticism, it is going to be my fucking priority number one to be like, let's be clear, Republicans are worse on this, you know? EW Ryan 8 says, what is going to be the worst part of Project 2025? That's a really, I couldn't tell you, honestly. Like, before the election, I had a much tighter catalog of all the things in Project 2025 up in my noodle. And, yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to retrieve it at this moment and then also be able to rank it, you know? Let's see here. Lesbian says, okay, I get where you're coming from. I appreciate that, Lesbian, and thank you so much for being here. Jeff Cahill says, yeah, Dems are bad, but not a good argument. I disagree with that, Jeff Cahill, because I don't think Democrats are bad. I don't think they're perfect, but I definitely think they are good, and I think that some Democrats are even great. Let's see here. EW Ryan says, now it's almost unreasonable as it is put into practice. People don't realize it. Yeah, you know, that's another one where I feel like people should, you know, like, are we all accepting of the fact that Project 2025 is being enacted as we speak? Or are people assuming that it is a known quantity, the way that people kind of assume that people know that Republicans are evil is a known quantity? You know, like, it's our job to make sure that this stuff stays relevant. You know, like, the billionaires and the Republicans, they want these things to go get fucking memory hold with whatever, like, the new fucking outrage is, you know? So we need to remind people, like, hey, Republicans have killed at least 4 women with their abortion bans, and they have tortured even more than that by refusing to give them life-saving care. Republicans fucking did that. Hey, the stock market just crashed. Republicans fucking did that. Hey, a whole bunch of veterans are now unemployed. Republicans did that. Project 25, you remember that thing we were all fucking flipping out about it? It's happening right now, guys. It's happening literally right now. Hey, Signalgate, you remember that? Yeah, there were never any consequences for that. That should bother you, right? Hey, January 6th, remember that? Fucking disqualifying all Republicans, right? We're on board? Yeah, guys, that's why I'm saying we all got to be part of this effort. You know what I mean? Because otherwise things just get memory hold and people start to lose, you know, people kind of like get their, you know, they want to feel what the zeitgeist is. They want to feel what the culture is, and then they kind of put their energy and attention in those places. So there was this attitude going into the 2024 election that Americans just didn't really care about January 6th anymore. Like, that's old news, that's history, you know? And I'm like, oh, that's really interesting that would get memory hold, you know, since that completely benefits the Republican Party to just assume that, like, one of the worst attacks of domestic terrorism that we've ever suffered under in this country, perfect, you know, we're just going to ignore that and say, like, you know, what's done is done, you know, let's all move on, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah. All right, everybody. Let's see here. Jeff Cahill says the vets that Dems don't care about. Yeah, Jeff, Dems are working for veterans. Are you kidding me, man? The PACT Act expanded healthcare access for veterans. Like, what are you talking about, Jeff? You know, you are dangerously close to blocking territory where you're saying things that are wildly untrue, that are literally the propaganda that I am telling people is out there that denigrates the Democratic Party and ignores the worst excesses of the Republican Party. Alrighty, Timmy Tim says, are there any Republicans that you like? So there are Republicans that I like more than other Republicans, the same way that there are Democrats that I like more than other Democrats. But at its core, what is the value that Republicans are bringing to, you know, to our government? Like, what is their platform thing that is so good? Because as far as I can tell, it is just being inhumane to immigrants and trickle down economics. Like, and also like fuck the LGBTQ community. Like that seems like it. Make voting harder. Make it easier to get guns. Do nothing about climate change. Do nothing about pollution. Do nothing about gun violence. Like, so even the best Republican, like that's their whole fucking thing, is giving more money to billionaires. Like, really? Like, what's the value there? You know, like, why am I supposed to like you? So yeah, Liz Cheney, Mitt Romney, Adam Kinzinger, Jeff Flake, like all these people had the fucking backbone and the moral foundation to stand up to Trump. So yeah, those guys I like. John McCain, that guy I like. But they're still fucking trying to cut regulations for billionaires. You know, they're still trying to cut taxes for billionaires. They're still trying to cut Medicare and Medicaid, you know? Like, that's fucked up, in my opinion. Alrighty, says Jeff Cahill, says same talking points from the last 40 years. Yeah, Jeff, you're not engaging. You mean people who grow... yeah, you're full of it, Jeff. All right, you're out of here. Okay. E.W. Ryan says, I would love Mitt Romney as president right now. Yeah, fucking hell, man. Neutsche Gamer says, how is lowering taxes a bad thing? It's bad if it's just for the billionaire class, Neutsche Gamer. So Republicans they operate under this thing called trickle-down economics, where they say that if we give money to people that already have a lot of it, it will eventually trickle down to all of us. The theory is that, you know, you got a billionaire who goes out and buys a mega yacht. Now, the guy who owns the mega yacht store has made a whole bunch of money, so he can go out and buy himself a regular yacht. And now the guy that owns the regular yacht store has a little bit of money, so he can go out and buy a boat. And then the guy who owns the boat store has money, so he can go to the grocery store and buy some food. Now the grocer has money, etc., etc. It just trickles down in that way. The problem with that philosophy is that it does not fucking work. It was basically implemented in the 80s during the Reagan administration, and even though we have had Democratic presidents since then, we have never been able to reshape the tax code in a way that wasn't trickle-down economics. Like, since the 1980s, we have been living under some version of trickle-down economics. Income inequality has never been worse than it is now. It is worse now than it was during the Gilded Age, which is an age that was named for how bad the income inequality was. It is worse now. So that shit's not trickling down. It's not happening. It is a bad political philosophy. Additionally, if you look at the tax plan, you know, that the Republicans have put forward, it actually raises taxes on people in the 99%. So the people that need that money the most are not going to have access to it, and the people that don't need the money are going to get more of it. Do you see why that is like a bad thing, my man? Neutsche Gamer says, many economists support trickle-down economics. That is untrue, Neutsche Gamer. There are right-wing economists who like trickle-down economics, but no sane human being who is looking at the country and looking at what is going on in this country for the last 40 years can tell you that trickle-down economics is working. No human being can say that. When there are homeless encampments in American cities, when there are bridges that cannot afford to be, you know, like retrofitted or fucking whatever, when there are classrooms that have 50 kids per one teacher, trickle-down economics is not working. It is not working. If we have to take resources away from our schools and our hospitals and our infrastructure and our welfare state just so that billionaires can get more money, and then we're going to wait for that shit to fucking trickle down, so that's going to solve poverty, right? That's going to make the middle class stronger, right? It's not. The middle class is shrinking. Poor people are poorer than they've ever fucking been. Well, that's weird. Maybe they need more money. Maybe that's the problem. So yeah, can you see what I'm saying here? Neutsche Gamer, the rich getting richer at a faster pace is kind of the point. I mean, the same things happen in Europe and all over the world. Yeah, but trickle-down economics is the mechanism by which that happens. If you have a progressive tax structure instead, where if you make, you know, like $1 million a year, you get taxed at, you know, I'm going to make up numbers, right? This is not an actual tax bill, but I'm making up numbers to explain progressive taxation. So if you make $1 million, you get taxed at 30%. If you make $10 million, every dollar that you make above $10 million gets taxed at 40%. And every dollar that you make above $100 million gets taxed at 50%. And every dollar that you make over $500 million gets taxed at 60%, et cetera, et cetera. That is how you solve income inequality. Somebody pointed this out, I forget who. They were like, the government is a machine for redistributing funds. It just depends on where that goes. Like, since the 80s, the government has been redistributing funds from the 99% to the wealthy. There's nothing intrinsic about American society or even capitalism by which that should be happening. That is a cause of our tax structure. And it can be done in a different way, where people like you and me don't need to be fucking struggling and working 4 jobs, 80 hours a week, just to fucking make ends meet, while these motherfuckers are eating lobster and caviar 3 fucking meals a day on their mega yacht, you know, and they own 10 different homes in 5 different countries so that they could zip around on their private fucking jets 24/7, you know? Yeah, Noiche Gamer. Tell me if any of this stuff is, yeah, Noiche Gamer. No one is struggling in the U.S. Are you full of shit, Noiche Gamer? Like, come on, man. I know you disagree with me, but you've been with me for a little while, you know? Like, you have been here. I thought you were open to this information, but to say that no one is struggling in the U.S. is wildly inaccurate, and it's putting you back on the list, man. Like, we're looking and blocking territory, Noiche Gamer. Noiche Gamer says Americans are the richest people in the world. Sure, Noiche Gamer, but that does not mean people here aren't struggling. Are you even here? Are you looking, like, what country are you based in? Oy, 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 oy. All right, everybody. Okay. Jack says, do you ever make arguments from a non-emotional base? Yeah, lots of times, Jack. The dreams of the past manufacturing in the 1950s became because no one else had the infrastructure. Yeah, that's true. You know, Dan says, is there a chance we get Trump out of office in the next 4 years? Dan, I got great news. We don't have to wait for 4 years. We can wait 2 years. If we get 67 seats in the Senate and take back the House, we can get rid of Trump in 2 years. You know, are people going to do that amount of work that it would take for that to happen? I don't know. But that's part of what I do on these fucking lives, is try to encourage people to do that work. You know, if you live in a state with a Republican senator and a Republican House member, get to work, man. Get to work. Elect a Democrat for that seat right now. The 2026 midterms start now. Guys, get out there. Do the work. And if you need any direction in how to do the work, hit me up, man. My DMs are open. Fucking email me through my website. Let's see here. Do you agree that Russia should be split into national republics and de-imperialized? That's a little bit over my head. Foreign policy is the area where I have the most holes in my knowledge. Let's see here. Noiche Gamer. Let's see here. Nichols says, we are doing the work. I just reported my neighbor for voting in New York and in California. Wow. Is that really a thing that happened? Oh, that's bananas, man. I mean, good for you for stopping, voter fraud, if that's real. Let's see here. Dan Blackroyd says, can I say something about that being emotional doesn't mean someone is wrong? Completely agree with that, Dan Blackroyd. But yeah, you'll notice that I did not argue against having an emotional response. I just said that, yeah, sometimes I say sometimes I say arguments that are not based in emotions. Let's see here. The new talking point they're all saying today that the only thing people can't buy are luxuries. Oh, interesting. So maybe, Noiche Gamer, you are specifically here to spread right-wing misinformation. Well, Noiche Gamer, how interesting. Alrighty. I'm going to get out of here, guys. Thank you so much for all your comments. Thank you so much for all of your questions. Thank you for joining me on this surprise Saturday live that I don't usually do. Magnus, good evening. How bad are tariffs going to be? They're being bad already, my man. If you have any questions that I was not able to get to on the live stream, you can hit me up. My DMs are open, and also you can email me through my website. If you want to support me, you can do the free kind, like liking and sharing and telling everybody how great my live streams are and telling everybody you got to check me out. If you want to support me financially as well, you can, but you don't have to. I know we're all suffering through a cost of living crisis. But if you want to, you can. I got a Patreon. I got a store. You can find all that stuff on jaredberenstein.com. And you can send gifts on TikTok and Twitch and YouTube and shit like that. Danish Minecraft server says, God damn, he is one handsome. Thank you, Danish Minecraft server. Milo Heiter says, hey, friend. Let's see here. What else? What else was I gonna say? Yeah. My regular streaming schedule is Monday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. And yeah, this is not a regular one for me. You can find my touring schedule and my streaming schedule on my website, jaredberenstein.com. And just if you're watching and you can do some work to help fix things, there's lots of work to do. So please get out there and be part of the solution. Do some helping. If you don't know what helping is, hit me up. I will happily make available to you any resources that I have for finding great volunteer opportunities or places where you can put your time, your money, your energy that will really make a difference in winning us the midterm elections. That's the goal going forward, guys. Putting pressure on Republicans in office and winning the midterm elections, guys. Let's fucking do it. Let's fucking do it. Let's find these people. Let's find these 85 million people who didn't vote in 2024 and convince them to vote for Democrats. Let's find those squishy Republican voters who are unhappy with what's going on and convince them to vote for Democrats in 2026, guys. That is the work. Let's talk to our friends, our family, our neighbors, our coworkers, and make sure that they're not fucking falling down into these negative, fucking bullshit right-wing propaganda narratives that are specifically meant to hype up the Republican Party or ignore the shitty things they are doing and getting people to not vote for the Democratic Party and ignoring all the great things that they are doing. All right, everybody, let's see. Is there anybody else? Any other last questions? Let's see here. E.W. Ryan says, what about meme coin? Yeah, the fact that Trump did a fucking meme coin is a definitely impeachable offense. The one who does not lie says, do you go to stand-ups or comedians don't do that? I haven't seen any live stand-up in a while. I tend to see a lot when I'm on the road just because I'm out doing stand-up, so I end up seeing a lot of other stand-ups at the same time. But yeah, I don't regularly go to shows, but I do like to see like who's new and who's doing cool things, and there are a lot of great young comics out there that are really great. I gotta also say that I do think it's funny when somebody like Danish Minecraft server over on Twitch says something nice to me, because then I read the comment and I could just literally be making shit up, and everybody on TikTok watching is just like, did somebody really say that? Oh my God, what a handsome fella. Thank you so much for saying that. This is the best live stream I've ever seen. Oh my God. The greatest political commentary since Ezra Klein. Stop it. You're going to make me blush here, everybody. T-Bone Tone says, just joined, but did you talk about any recent shows you have done? No, actually, I got off the road a couple of weeks ago. I'm going back on the road in about 2.5 weeks. All Eyes on Hostages says, Israel-Palestine, I am for the citizens of both of those places, and I am against the governing body of both of those places. Both the right-wing Netanyahu government of Israel and Hamas are terrible government organizations. They have done war crimes on their neighbors, and so they are both bad. But I believe that we need to do everything we can to protect the life, liberty, and happiness of the citizens of both Israel and Palestine. All right, have a great weekend, everybody. I will see you at the very latest on Monday at 11:30 a.m.-ish. Come back and see me again sometime, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye. Goodbye, 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 goodbye. Goodbye, 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 goodbye. Goodbye, 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 goodbye.